I remember the day like it was yesterday. The office was buzzing with the news of a new department head arriving. That's when I first laid eyes on Michael. He walked in with an air of confidence, like he owned the place. I was crunching numbers at my desk, buried in spreadsheets and tax forms. "You must be Anna, the star accountant I've heard so much about," he said, extending his hand. His voice was calm, his grip firm. "Yeah, that's me. And you're the new boss, huh? Big shoes to fill," I replied, shaking his hand. He chuckled. "I sure hope I can fill them. So you gonna show me the ropes around here or what?" I raised an eyebrow. "Maybe, if you're lucky." We hit it off from there. Work conversations turned into coffee breaks, and coffee breaks turned into late-night chats. That's when he told me about his sister, Elise, and his nephew, Lucas. "They're everything to me, Anna. Just a heads up, they're a package deal with me," he said earnestly one evening. "I love family. I'd like to meet them sometime," I responded, not knowing what I was signing up for. It wasn't long before I got my wish. Elise was striking, but her presence was cold, like a winter breeze that you can't shield yourself from. "So you're the accountant," she said, her voice laced with a hint of disdain. "Michael says you're good with numbers. Sounds boring to me." I forced a smile. "Well, we all have our talents. Accounting is mine." Lucas was a whirlwind, a 3-year-old with energy for days and manners yet to be learned. I watched as he ran around, his laughter filling the room, while Michael looked on with adoration. "He's a spirited one, isn't he?" I remarked. Michael chuckled. "That's one way to put it. He's my little champ, can do no wrong in my eyes." The wedding was modest, just close friends and family. I thought marrying Michael meant I was getting a partner, but it felt more like I was joining a club where I didn't know the rules. We moved into his house, right next door to Elise's apartment. I learned quickly that Michael paid her rent, something about wanting to keep family close. Elise's visits became more frequent, her presence in our home more imposing. "Michael, why is Elise here all the time? Doesn't she have her own place?" I asked him one evening. He was nonchalant. "She's my sister, Anna. She needs us. I'm all she's got after her messy divorce. Plus, she's got Lucas to think about." I suggested, maybe I could help her find a job. It could be good for her, to have something of her own. That's when I saw a side of Michael I hadn't seen before. His voice was sharp, his eyes stern. "Don't you dare, Anna. Elise's life is her business, not yours. Stay out of it." I was taken aback. "Okay, Michael. I didn't mean to overstep. I just thought—" He cut me off. "Just drop it, Anna. It's not your place." I let it go, thinking maybe it was just the stress of adjusting to our new life together. I didn't realize then that it was the beginning of a pattern, a cycle I was about to be trapped in. Elise's visits grew more frequent, if that was even possible. She'd waltz in like she owned the place, at any hour, without so much as a knock. One afternoon, I found her in the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge like it was her own. "Elise, don't you think you should at least call before coming over?" I said, trying to keep my tone light but firm. She shot me a look, her hand on her hip. "Listen, Anna, this is practically my second home. Michael doesn't mind, so why should you?" "It's not about minding, it's about privacy, respect. We need our space too," I replied, feeling my patience wearing thin. Elise scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Space? You married into this family, sweetheart. Space is a luxury you gave up. Get used to it." I was seething, but before I could retort, Michael walked in. "What's all the commotion about?" he asked, looking from Elise to me. "It's about your sister thinking she can just barge in here anytime she wants," I blurted out, unable to hold it in any longer. Michael's face turned serious. "Anna, I've told you before, Elise is family. This is her home too, in a way. Can't you just get along?" I was stunned. Get along. Michael, it's not about getting along. It's about boundaries, respect. Doesn't that mean anything to you? He sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Of course it does, but she's going through a tough time. We need to be there for her." Elise smirked, enjoying the scene. "See, Anna, Michael understands. Maybe you're the one who needs to adjust." I felt a mix of anger and helplessness. It was like banging my head against a brick wall. "Fine, have it your way. But remember, this is my home too," I said, my voice shaking with frustration. The days turned into weeks. and the pattern continued. Elise's entitlement grew, and so did my resentment. One day, Lucas, now a whirlwind of mischief and tantrums, decided my vase was his new toy. The crash was deafening, the pieces of the vase scattered like my patience. "Lucas, that was not yours to break," I exclaimed, my voice stern. Elise rushed in, her protective mother bear mode in full swing. "What did you say to my son?" she demanded, her eyes blazing. "I told him off for breaking my vase. He needs to learn to respect other people's property," I retorted, standing my ground. Elise was fuming. "He's just a child, Anna. They make mistakes. You don't need to make a big deal out of it." "A child needs to learn, Elise. If we don't teach them, who will?" I argued, feeling the weight of the situation. Before it could escalate further, Michael stepped in. "Okay, let's all calm down. It's just a vase. We can replace it." As I swept up the broken pieces of the vase, I realized I was also trying to piece together a sense of normalcy in a home where the lines between respect, family, and intrusion were constantly blurred. It was a balancing act, and I was the tightrope walker, treading carefully, wondering when I would finally fall or if I'd ever find the balance I so desperately sought. Life at home started feeling like walking on eggshells. The arrival of our daughter Lily was supposed to be the light at the end of the tunnel. I thought maybe, just maybe, having our own little one would shift Michael's focus, make him see things differently. I was wrong. One evening, I brought up the subject of Lily's future. "Michael, we need to start putting money aside for Lily's college. She deserves every chance we can give her," I said, cradling her gently in my arms. Michael glanced at Lily, then back at his phone. "Yeah, sure. We'll open a joint account or something. But don't go overboard with the saving. We've got plenty of time." It wasn't the enthusiastic agreement I'd hoped for, but it was something, or so I thought. Elise's grip on our life only tightened. She'd stroll into our house whenever she pleased, treating it like her own personal diner. I'd find dishes scattered, leftovers gone, the aftermath of her impromptu visits. One day, the sound of Lily's cries cut through the house. I rushed to find Lucas, now more rambunctious than ever, yanking her favorite toy away, his face twisted in a mean grin. "Lucas, stop that right now! Give it back to Lily!" I commanded, my voice laced with anger. Elise appeared in a flash, her eyes narrow slits. "Why are you picking on my son? He's just playing. Can't you see that?" "He's not playing, Elise. He's being a bully. Doesn't that bother you at all?" I snapped, frustration boiling over. Elise laughed, a cold, harsh sound. "Bother me? Why should it? Kids will be kids. You'd know if you weren't so busy playing the perfect mommy." Before I could unleash the torrent of words building inside me, Michael walked in. "What's all this noise about? Anna, why are you attacking Lucas?" I couldn't believe my ears. Attacking? "Michael, your nephew is terrorizing our daughter and you're worried about me attacking him?" Michael's face darkened. "Lucas is just a child, Anna. Stop making mountains out of molehills. And watch your tone. You're not talking to one of your spreadsheets now." I was stunned into silence. My husband, the man who was supposed to be my partner, my equal, was taking sides against his own daughter. "Your sister walks in here like she owns the place. Her son treats our daughter like dirt, and I'm the one who's wrong," I asked, my voice trembling. Michael stepped closer, his voice a low growl. "You heard me. Elise is going through a lot, and I won't have you adding to her stress. You're the one who needs to adjust your attitude." The room spun around me. This wasn't just about a toy or a broken vase. It was about my husband, the father of my child, choosing his sister's happiness over our daughter's well-being, over our family's peace. As I held Lily close, her sobs soaking into my shirt, I realized the balance I'd been seeking was a farce. There was no middle ground, no compromise. In Michael's world, Elise and Lucas reigned supreme, and Lily and I. We were just living in it. The realization hit hard, a bitter pill I wasn't ready to swallow. The scales weren't just tipped. They were completely overturned, and there I was, left picking up the pieces, wondering how I'd let it get this far, and where we'd go from here. Years had trickled by, each day a stark reminder of where I stood in the pecking order of Michael's priorities. Elise and Lucas always came first, their needs and whims overshadowing our little families. I'd learned to live in the shadows, But what I couldn't stomach was watching Lily grow up feeling like she was second best in her own father's eyes. Lucas turned 18, his high school days behind him, college on the horizon. Lily, just 14, was blossoming into a bright, ambitious girl, her dreams of becoming a doctor getting more vivid with each passing day. We'd been squirreling away every penny into her college fund, or so I thought. That day, something nudged me to check the account, a gut feeling I couldn't shake. The numbers on the screen made my world spin. 2/3 of Lily's future, her dreams, our promises, gone. Numb, I scrolled through the transactions, each entry a stab in the heart. Michael had drained the account, the lifeline we'd promised our daughter. I waited for him, the betrayal burning a hole through my chest. Michael, the college fund for Lily, it's nearly empty. Why? He didn't flinch, his voice as calm as a predator's. Lucas is going to college. He needed the money. The room spun around me. But that was for Lily, our daughter. How could you do this without even asking me? His glare was icy. It's my money too. I don't need your permission to help my family. Your family, I echoed, disbelief wrapping around me like a shroud. Isn't Lily your family? Doesn't she matter to you at all? He scoffed, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. Elise and Lucas need me more. They're my responsibility. Lily, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped in, her voice a mix of confusion and hurt. Dad, am I not your responsibility too? Don't you care about my future? Michael's reply was a blade, sharp and cold. Elite and Lucas will always come first. That's just how it is. The room fell silent, the truth hanging heavy like a storm cloud. Lily's eyes, once bright with hope, brimmed with tears, each one a silent accusation against the father who'd failed her. I looked at Michael, really looked at him, and saw the stranger he'd become. My husband, who was supposed to be my partner, my equal, had made his choice, and in doing so, he'd shattered the fragile facade of a family we'd tried so hard to uphold. As Lily's sobs filled the room, a clarity settled over me. This was the tipping point, the moment when the veil lifted and the ugly truth revealed itself. We weren't a family, we were just extras in the backdrop of Michael's unwavering loyalty to Elise and Lucas. The revelation about the college fund wasn't just a breach of trust. It was the catalyst that set everything in motion. The facade of our family life, already cracking, began to crumble piece by piece. In the days that followed, the house was thick with tension, each of us walking on a tightrope of unspoken words and raw emotions. Lily, once bubbly and chatty, grew quiet, her eyes losing the sparkle that once lit up the room. And Michael, he carried on as if nothing had changed, as if he hadn't just turned our world upside down. One evening, I couldn't take the silence anymore. Michael, we need to talk about what happened, I said, my voice steady but firm. He didn't even look up from his paper. What's there to talk about, Anna? It's done. I felt a surge of anger. Done. You think you can just wipe away what you did. You stole our daughter's future, Michael. He shrugged, the gesture so casual it made my blood boil. I didn't steal anything. It was my money, too. Your money, I echoed, incredulous. What about Lily? What about her dreams, her future? He finally looked at me, his eyes cold. Lily will manage. She's smart. She'll find a way. I stared at him, the man I once thought I knew, now a stranger sitting across from me. And what if she can't? What if your decision ruins her chances? He let out a harsh laugh. Life's tough, Anna. She might as well learn that now. That night, as I lay awake, the weight of his words crushing me, I knew something had to change. I couldn't let Lily's dreams be another casualty of Michael's blind loyalty to Elise and Lucas. Like clockwork, Elise barged into our house the next day, her smug grin stretching from ear to ear. Well, well, look at that. Lucas is off to a fancy college, thanks to Michael. Too bad for Lily, though. Guess she'll have to hustle for scholarships or something. She snickered, her voice dripping with malice. I bit back the anger rising in my throat. You think it's funny, Elise. You're here laughing while my daughter's future hangs by a thread? Oh, lighten up, Anna. It's not the end of the world. Michael did what he had to do. His nephew needed him, she said, her indifference stinging like salt in a wound. It was then she let something slip, a number that didn't match up. The amount she casually mentioned Michael gave her was way less than what had vanished from Lily's account. My mind raced. Where did the rest of the money go? I couldn't let it go. Not this time. I hired a private investigator, a quiet man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Find out where the money went, I told him, handing over the account statements. Find out what he's hiding. It took 2 weeks of waiting, each day longer than the last. Then the investigator came back, his face grim. I found what you're looking for, he said, passing over a file. The contents made my world collapse. Michael wasn't just betraying me financially. He was having an affair. Armed with the evidence, I stormed over to Michael's sanctuary, where he was probably basking in the safety of his sister's support. Without a knock, I pushed the door open and threw the divorce papers in front of him. Michael, we're through. This is where it ends, I said, my voice eerily calm yet seething with a rage that had been simmering for years. Elise, who had been watching the scene unfold with a smirk, let out a laugh. Good riddance, Anna. Michael was too good for you anyway. Right, bro? Michael, however, didn't share her amusement. Anna, I'm done with you. I'll sign the papers and you get out of my house. Take Lily and leave. His words, meant to wound, only strengthened my resolve. It was then I played my final card, the ace I'd been holding close. Not so fast, Michael. I have something else for you. I handed him the evidence of his infidelity. And just so you know, I'll be seeking compensation for this betrayal. Your boss might be interested to learn about your little escapades, especially since it involves his wife. The color drained from Michael's face, his arrogance evaporating like mist under the sun. Anna, please. I'm begging you. Let's sort this out. You can't do this to me. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The time for begging was over. The time to act was now. You made your bed, Michael. Now you get to lie in it. As I turned my back on the crumbling facade of the life we had built, I felt the weight of the past years lift off my shoulders. It was a bitter end to a chapter filled with lies and deceit, but it was also a new beginning. A beginning where Lily and I could step into the light, leaving the shadows of Michael's betrayal far behind. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Michael's face when he realized the magnitude of what was at stake was a picture I couldn't erase from my mind. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, about securing a future for Lily that her father had so carelessly gambled away. I sat at the kitchen table, the divorce papers in front of me, when Lily walked in. Her eyes, once filled with innocent joy, now held a maturity that no 14-year-old should have. Mom, what's going to happen now? She asked, her voice steady but her hands trembling ever so slightly. I reached across the table, taking her hands in mine. We're going to get through this, Lily. It's going to be tough, but we'll make it. We're a team, remember? She nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. Yeah, team us. But what about Dad? And college? I squeezed her hands, my resolve firm. Your dad made his choices, and now he has to face the consequences. As for college, we'll figure it out. I'm not letting anything or anyone ruin your dreams. The legal battle that ensued wasn't pretty. Michael's lawyer was slick, his arguments crafted to paint Michael as the victim, but I held my ground, the evidence and the truth on my side. In the courtroom, Michael's eyes met mine, a silent plea in their depths. But this wasn't about him anymore. It was about righting a wrong, about standing up for my daughter. Mrs. Carter, can you confirm that these transactions were made without your knowledge or consent? The judge asked, his gaze piercing. Yes, Your Honor. I had no idea until it was too late, I replied, my voice unwavering. And the evidence of infidelity presented here, can you attest to its authenticity? I nodded, feeling a mix of pain and triumph. Yes, Your Honor, it's all true. The gavel came down like thunder, the sound marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. In light of the evidence presented, I'm ruling in favor of Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter, you are hereby ordered to pay restitution for the misappropriated funds and additional compensation for emotional distress. Michael's face was a mask of shock and defeat, but Elise, who had come to support her brother, was livid. This isn't fair. You can't do this to him, she shouted, her voice echoing in the courtroom. The judge's gaze was unyielding. It's not about what's fair to him, Mrs. Carter. It's about what's fair to his family, the ones he betrayed. As we walked out of the courtroom, Lily's hand in mine, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't a victory, not in the true sense, but it was a step towards healing, towards rebuilding what had been broken. Michael's life unraveled after that. His boss, upon learning of the affair, showed him the door. Without his job, his world, once so carefully constructed, began to crumble. And as for Elise, her once lavish lifestyle, funded by her brother's generosity, was now just a memory. She was forced to find work, to stand on her own 2 feet for the first time in years. But for Lily and me, it was a new beginning. We'd walked through the fire and emerged stronger, our bond unbreakable. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, but we had each other. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we would face it together as a team. Because in the end, that's what family is all about. Not the ties of blood, but the bonds of love and the promise to always stand up for each other no matter what. The world had turned upside down. Michael, once so sure of himself and his choices, was now scrambling to keep his head above water. Juggling 2 jobs just to make ends meet, his days of comfort and complacency were long gone. One evening, I saw him at the grocery store, looking worn out and tired. His cart was filled with basic necessities, a far cry from the luxurious items he used to bring home. "Anna," he said, his voice tinged with exhaustion, "I didn't expect to see you here." I looked at him, the man who had once been the center of my world, now a stranger fighting his own battles. "Life's full of surprises, Michael. Looks like you've got your hands full." He sighed, running a hand over his face. "Yeah, it's been rough. With Elise and Lucas moving in, things are tight. I'm doing what I can." The mention of Elise brought back a rush of memories, none of them pleasant. I heard she's working at the store down the street. Must be a change from her days of leisure. Michael nodded, a hint of embarrassment in his eyes. "It is, but she had no choice. I can't cover everything anymore, not after everything that's happened." I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction, seeing the consequences of their actions finally catching up. Well, actions have consequences, Michael. You're learning that the hard way. He didn't argue, the reality of his situation evident in his weary posture. "I know I made mistakes, Anna. Big ones. I just hope someday Lily can forgive me." I thought of our daughter, her resilience and her determination shining through despite the storm she'd weathered. Lily's focused on her future, on becoming a doctor. She's moving past this, past you. And so am I. Michael looked at me, a mix of regret and realization in his eyes. "I guess that's fair. I miss her, Anna. I miss both of you." I shook my head, the finality in my voice clear. "You made your choices, Michael. Now you have to live with them. Lily and I, we're doing just fine without you." As I left the store, I felt a surge of pride. Pride in how far Lily and I had come, in the strength we'd found in each other. Michael's world might have been crumbling, but ours was just beginning to rebuild. Lily's graduation was just around the corner, the culmination of her hard work and dedication. The dream of her becoming a doctor was no longer a distant hope, but a tangible, nearing reality. And as for me, I was content knowing that the storm had passed, and in its wake, it had left us stronger, more resilient. The aftershocks of Michael's decisions would still ripple through our lives, but they no longer had the power to shake our foundations. We had each other, and that was more than enough. As we looked to the future, to the new chapter waiting to be written, I knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together, as a team. Because in the end, that's what family is all about. Not the ties that bind you, but the love that holds you together, through the best and worst of times.